Well, we are now live. Welcome to the Motley Croc Show Sunday. I moved it out about an hour so that I could bring in Brittany from WTF Paranormal Official. How you doing, Brittany?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm hoping that we get some people clicking in. I'm doing it now because a little bit later, sometimes easier than 7 o'clock. Most of the people have got the kids to bed already and stuff like that. So, kind of works in our favor, I guess. We have some people in. So please, when you guys log in, would you please let me know you're here and you can hear us and make sure we're all good to go, because I want to make sure everybody's being able to hear us and communicate with us and send us some stuff. We're going to be talking about scary stories, some stuff we're working on, some tours where we can do some paranormal tours. So I think that's going to be kind of cool. Tony Capranica, what's up, bud? Good to see you. Tony's here. Yep, Tony's here. That's good. What's up, T? Balls. It's good to see you, bud. Yeah, so we're going to start doing that. Brittany is going to help us with some tours. She's got some connection into some stuff where some really crazy ghost and paranormal activity happens. There's been a lot of stuff that. What's up, Judy? Let's see. Judy's here. Hey, guys. Okay, so with that being said, we're definitely going to have to really dig into that. Brittany, what are some of the things that you have? Like, what are some of the areas that you think we could get into and what we could do as far as going like on a tour? What's up, Michael Foster?
Downtown Orlando has a lot of really great areas that are haunted. A lot of the older bars and stuff have been converted over the years. Some of those were actual mental hospitals. So those are always really good places to go to. Tampa has a lot of great places, but I know that we spoke about trying to stay more centralized, especially with people flying into Orlando. So you want to kind of stay in the generalized area between like Universal, Disney, and all that, so that when you're done doing your tour, you can go and have fun wherever you are.
If you're not too creeped out.
If you depending on the time of the tour and if you're not creeped out. But I mean, like, it just depends, like everybody always thinks, oh, we need to go run to a cemetery, but they're actually not. That's not, you're just scaring yourself at a cemetery. There's nothing really there. I know a lot of people do get EVPs and stuff there, and that's fine. But as far as like, getting an encounter, you really want to go to a place that has a lot of already known activity. And there are places too that which is really weird. There's a lot of portal openings, as they call them, of things that have already been brought in there a long time ago, even on the land. So when you build on that land, it's not actually the building or anything that happened in the building. It's the property itself. The land itself was sacred. So, or other things were done on that land that you didn't know about. So.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I'm really into, you'll probably think I'm crazy, but now twice I've had to get up. When I was trying to set up this thing here tonight and try to get up, I turned my lights off, my studio lights, and then I sat down and I was putting up my ring lights and getting everything going, the microphone, then my studio lights kicked back on me again, right? Yeah. So I get up, this really happened. So I get up and I turn that light off and I sit back down, and then my focal light, my round light here goes off on me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the light. I'm like, what are you doing? So 2 times tonight I've walked through and I thought I saw people standing in separate rooms. And there's been some really fun stuff happening, more opening up those doors. And there's a lot of people that don't believe it, but there are people here that do. There's a lot of people that log in here too that are just curious to see what I'm up to, that are just no good people, and they want to find reasons to, mess with us or whatever, because that's just what they do. And they'll log on real quick and log off, or they come in secretly under a different name. It's pretty cool. So a lot of the regular people here are starting to come in. Michael Forster and them, he's here all the time, and they've all got really cool stories. Joseph Mazzone, the Croc Father, he usually pops in, and we might see him. I know he had kind of a busy day, but we get a lot of that kind of crap going on too. But for the people who are really interested in some of that stuff going on, what Brittany was referencing earlier about cemeteries not having any activity, if you talk to a lot of psychics that are real, not the psychics I called. So there's certain psychics out there that are a lot like, what's the term? The 1980s evangelists. You know what I mean? Like, they'll say stuff like, well, I feel like, you have trauma on your big toe. Those kind of people, they'll tell you they go to cemeteries. But if you talk to real psychic mediums, futuristic psychics, or channelers, if you will, they'll tell you that there really isn't anything at cemeteries. Now, I've seen a few things at cemeteries, but people would come and go. I think if I was there, I'd want to make sure my area, my little 6x3 was being taken care of. But but for the most part, I think we kind of tend to stay attached to things that are important to us, as far as, homes or things, possessions and stuff that we're really, really into. And you can really dig into your psyche. Like, there are some things that you just really, really, really like.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
some people fall in love with their motorcycle, or some people fall in love with this belt buckle they got, or this watch or pocket watch. And I think that a piece of your energy, you know, you've put into that. And I think that that's something that you stick with. So, and there are bad things too. I mean, I like that. I like the stuff that really gives you the creeps, or when the room gets cold, or something really crazy happens, or you know, I like that more than some people do. But we can make that, you know, we can take people to those types of things. So what we were talking about doing was, we work a lot with Flavio Morrissey. A lot of you here know Flavio, and he has a tour company, which helps us because he can really book a lot of things. And so what he'll do is, he has different connections where he can go to like different countries or whatever, different states. And so Brittany's a good connection for us, you know, being a ufologist and having a lot of that, you know, paranormal background and people coming into that, if you will, and give you access to places. I don't like trolley tours and where they walk outside and they're dressed like they walked out of the 15th century. Well, Lord Richard said that he shot his wife and blah, blah, blah. I don't like care about that shit. I want to go into something to pull my hair, yank my beard, or like when we took Jimmy Riffle in. For those of you that follow Jimmy Riffle or Scales, Tails, and Teeth on the Instagram, feel free to DM him and ask him about the time we spent in St. Augustine. Something was throwing things at him. Something grabbed onto his shirt. Something came through and pushed him down to the floor. I mean, there was a lot. So feel free to ask him. So he got to go in there with me. We had a really, really good time. Brittany was there. We had a really good psychic there named Michael Bodine was with us. And there was a lot going on that night. And even the people who weren't really sure or believing that, there's a lot of things that was going on around them. They became sick. The room was bending for them. There's a lot to it, guys. And I think once you open up and you get into it, that's why we want to, I personally, when I go into places, I see things that I already see. I don't need electronics and, you know, you can verify it, and I can, you know, with your units or whatever. But for the people that haven't got that open yet, Brittany is talking about supplying people with
equipment,
meters and equipment and readers and EVPs and electromagnetic sensors and certain types of cameras. So that's the type of stuff we're really going to get into, and we're going to bring people from all over the world with Flavio's connections and so on and so forth that really want to do these really creep tours, and we'll spend a lot of time with them. So it's not like we're going to go talk about something. What's up, Joseph? Glad to see you, my friend. Joseph just popped in. So we're not going to spend a lot of time doing that type of stuff. We're going to we are going to take you in and actually take you to the investigation itself, so that you can really, really see that type of stuff happen as it was. Dakota, do you think that Nola Mansion we stayed in was haunted? We had to take, yes. So Dakota, Dakota Gold and I went to up north, I think Louisiana, and we stayed in this mansion. It was called, and you probably remember the name, Dakota. It was something mansion, the Iron Fence Mansion or whatever. And they actually had me and her stay in the slave quarters. So we stayed in the slave quarters of that house. You know, they gave us these big rooms, and these rooms, the ceilings were like 20 feet tall. And, you know, it was kind of creepy. The back stairways creeped her out. She stated here, if you read what she said.
Yeah, that's what I read.
There was a lot of stuff there. I think there was a lot of that going on, but, you know, we were not there for that, really looking at that type of stuff. So, yes, you know what? I maybe Dakota can help us get back into there one time too. She's really
that
good
would be
friends
awesome.
with the owners, and that would be a really cool. And Joseph just said, "Bro, I am down for some dark encounters. I love the evil shit. Good, you're right up there with me." So we're gonna try to pick up places, guys, that are so twisted.
There's a lot.
I want you to be able to see that, right? Exactly, apparitions, and you know, Joseph gets into it, so he understands. There are some people here. Cornstalk Mansion. That's what it was called. She's right. She said Cornstalk Mansion, and because there's this wrought iron fence all the way around it that looked like cornstalks. Very expensive.
Wow.
They were actually filming a movie there. It was in New Orleans area. It was in New Orleans, but it was on like in the old neighborhoods, and they were filming a movie there. I think I'm trying to think of his name. Ben Affleck, I think, was there when we drove by. He was doing a movie, and they had the whole street shut down when we walked by. And Dakota and I went to go for a walk, but it's so fucking cold. I mean, it was it was bad. You just wanted to be back in the house, and it was a really cool place. Honestly, it really was.
I always think the funny part for me that I always find intriguing is everybody's like, oh, you know, we don't talk about paranormal, but I think it's really funny because, you know, everybody, at least like 3 out of 5 people have had a paranormal experience or are into it, and it's always the topic that everybody feels like, well, should we talk about it? But it's the most interested, you know, topic to talk about, and so I think it's even cooler when you're able to Like there's the historical tours, and those tours I always like for kids, like where they dress up and they're taking you through the period walk, because I think for certain kids they appeal more to that because they feel like they're time
Right.
traveling for a minute. But for I think adults or for and even teenagers who really are like, I'm really into this because I have had these experiences and I want to know that I'm not crazy. I think having an actual investigation where you're not quite open yet. So the left side of your brain spiritually isn't quite open to that area yet. And you do have to be cautious when opening because you don't want everything to come in because you don't know what you could let in. But
All right. I'm just gonna just 1 second. I'll let you finish. I just want to put this up before it's a big one.
okay.
I stayed at the okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Brittany, you go ahead and finish your story.
I know the Basilica Axe murder.
Okay. Hold on. So what I'm going to do, Dakota, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you something so you can connect. And I'm going to try to give some people a little bit of time if you want to come in, Dakota, and talk a little bit about that with Brittany and I too. I mean, I'd like to hear more about it. So I sent you that. If you're willing to pop on, awesome. If you can't, and I'll go ahead, just tell me you can't do it right now or whatever, but I'll send you that over so we can talk about that. I just sent you the click link, but she said, I've stayed at the Villisca. Is that how you pronounce it? The Villisca Axe Murder House 3 times here in Iowa.
Basilica.
If you ever want to come to Iowa, a museum I work for has the Axe too. I could probably get access to it. It's hidden in our storage, and it's widely known our building is currently badass.
That is so
Dakota,
cool,
I did send you something. If you want to pop in,
Ooh.
please feel free to pop in. I'll bring you on. You can tell us about it. I think people would love to hear that too.
Yeah, that history.
I'd like to put
of
a few
that
minutes
house
in and do that too. And there's a few people with stories. I think Joseph said he had a story one time. So afterwards, we'll pop in for a few minutes with Dakota, and then I can let Joseph come on and tell us some of his scary stories because he said he had some stuff too. So I got to reach out to him and do that as well. Give me 10 minutes. I'm almost home. Okay, so Dakota will join us in 10 minutes.
Awesome.
In 10 minutes, she will join us. So I need to let me do one. Keep talking, Brittany. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going to forward this over to him as well.
Yeah, no, like when I was just talking about the equipment part, there are some people that just aren't open yet and they just want to have that experience. And so I think when you over device it, you create a lot of problems. There are certain devices that I think are helpful when you're doing an investigation and can be really fun for newbies that are coming into it with you, wanting to honestly learn and not do it as like, oh, I just did that for fun one night. Like actually want to learn. But I'm not a big fan of a lot of, I mean, I've done and I've tried all the tech, but I'm kind of old school. So I still stick to what I feel works. I do love the REM pods, the EVPs, the EMF readers. I'm just an old school person. But I respect that people are creating new technology to try. And I think at some point we're going to crack a window here with some of the new technology.
Oh, there's some great stuff. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Joseph, I sent you a link, big dog, so you can come in too. Tell us some of that stuff you were talking about, some stories you had before, and then while we're waiting on Dakota too, and then we'll kind of try to pack it in here and see how it goes. Go ahead, Brittany.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah, it's just like with all those things, including the Basilica, like that location alone, you know, when you have that type of energy, I mean, you look at the Amity Horror House, like there was so much history to that versus just the horrible incident that transpired that still made that house what it is today. And everything that followed with the following family and the investigations. And I mean, the Warrens were in that house and just the things that happened. You know, you look at the building when something tragic like that happens, the energy is going to stay. Whether you like it or not, it's going to stay. And in some of those buildings, when those incident happens, they just become like, I hate to say it, but damned, and they'll keep them closed depending on how horrific the murder is and the entities and the activity to follow. There's a lot of houses that are like that.
Flavio, there was a house that they tore it down. And I don't really remember exactly what it was they were talking about, or he was talking about. I know it had something to do with this duck statue, and it was in the house, and lightning bolts like flew out of it or something like that. It was really, really wild. So, yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask him about that. He might be tuning in. I don't know if he's on the road, probably driving on vacation to West Virginia. So he might be listening. So Babs may be sleeping or whatever. She may text or something. Let us know what he says. But if not, yeah, it was something like that. And we'll have to get that as a story and talk with that next week if we can get into that stuff too. But like I said, Dakota will be on. I sent Joseph a Dark Encounters link so he can come in and talk about Dark Encounters. So that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, and that's the funny thing too, is a lot of people, like, they don't even realize, and this happens quite a bit, where they've had accounts happen, or they'll hear things and they see things and they'll ask other people, did you see that too? And they're like, no. Some people don't realize that they are more open than what they already know. Like, you were just born that way. And you don't purposely mean to close it off. You just didn't know that you had that ability or the gift. And so for that, when you're investigating or you come out on a tour, even with us, you might have an experience that you go, I can't believe that happened to me, but just be prepared that you maybe are more open than you're even aware, and so don't be alarmed or frightened, take it all in and just accept it, but also be in control of your own space of what you're allowing in and what you're not.
Yeah, I think that's really rad. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun. I love every part of it. There is not a single thing that I don't love about the paranormal space, but investigating, especially with like haunted locations, I always love it because you just don't know who's going to come out and say hello.
No, and that's why I said I really want to take people to do actual things so they can see stuff. I understand that. What is it? Haunted tourism sometimes is I don't know. What's the word? Let me think of it. It's entertainment. It's thrilling, like a roller coaster or like a movie. And I don't want to do that. I want more of like a more along the lines of, well, wow, like listen, that was really, really weird, and I can't explain that, or I'm a little sick. And I think if we could do that, then we're definitely we're doing good.
Yeah. Well, without even realizing you're educating without educating. Like, because people, I don't want everybody running out trying to, open a portal in their house. But if you come out and you learn how it's done and you actually have fun doing it, then you come on the tour as much as you want. And we just have a really good time with being in the field and getting the boots on the ground. I mean, really, that's the best way to do it, is being in tours and being in tour groups and educating people with the proper stuff. You don't always have to know the history. Sometimes I think it's more fascinating when you're on a tour and people don't know the history and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I know this may sound really weird, but I just saw a woman and she told me this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to validate that for you at the end to see. And then it comes out that it's true. And for them, it's really eye-opening. But for us, it's also really cool because we're helping those people realize that they're unique and really cool people.
Right.
So.
You can tell. I'm just trying to check with some of these guys and see.
I mean, it's a fascinating
world.
All right,
I got to try something. Hold on a second. I've got to do one more thing here. He's trying to do something here. Let me copy this and resend something out, Brittany. Okay. So if you get something, it's okay. You can continue to chat. I'm going to do this real quick. Hold on. I'm just going to send a new link. That way we have it. It'll probably pop to Brittany real quick. And then I'm going to resend it over. Just hang on a second, Joseph. Sorry about that, bud. Sometimes there's some weird things sometimes.
Do I need to sign out and sign back in?
No, not at all. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Just stay right there. I'm going to go ahead and send and copy this here. I'm going to resend it to Dakota. I'm just resending the link back out so that they can actually do that. So they can, because I really like to hear what they have to say, honestly.
That's the best part of it. I really, really like hearing people's stories and their experiences and their accounts because, again, being a researcher or an investigator, you really have to talk to people that have had these experiences to gather as much information as possible, especially about the location or the events that are happening, because everybody's going to have a different experience.
Exactly.
I'm not going to have the same thing that somebody else is having at the same time. So, and some people have.
Paul, what's up, dude? Record backwards. Paul Wellman's on. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Paul.
It's good to see that you're up doing stuff, Paul. Awesome. I like to see that you're here, man. This is pretty cool. Yeah, Brittany's talking about doing some tours and stuff, but I like that. I like what he said. Record backwards, portals. I remember that when we were a kid, all the heavy metal music. Play it backwards.
The Beatles even did that. Remember, it was the White Album, I think. You played it backwards and it said something else.
Turn Me On, Dead Man. It was number 9.
Yep.
It was number 9. He said it number 9. That was you backward. It said Turn Me On, Dead Man. It was cool.
Mm-hmm. And then everybody was like,
I don't understand why yeah, I'm trying to see what's going on here with Joseph. I don't understand. I sent him the
Is
link.
Is he opening it in Chrome?
I don't know if you. I don't know, or his phone, whatever. A lot of people open with their phone. Yeah, if you guys can hear me, a lot of times you have to open it up in Chrome. If you could, you got to go heading in the house. Give me a minute. I sent a second one, Dakota, just so you know, because I guess one of them wasn't working. I was trying to get a couple people in here today as a guest, but for some reason, wait a minute. There's Joe. Hold on, I think I got him. When he pops in, I see him in the green room. As soon as he pops in, I'll bring him in. Joe is popping in. Thank God we got that. Wait, as soon as you pop in, Joe, in the room here, I'll add you to the stream when I see you, buddy. So he's linking in too. And
I'm very excited to hear Dakota's too about the Basilica. You have no idea how much I really like that property.
Yeah, that's really cool. She's got all that stuff up there in Iowa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Let me see if I can. I see you in here, Joe. I see you here, bud. but all I see is a gray screen. So I don't know if it's lagging or catching up, but I do see that you're here. See where it says Joe?
Yeah.
Joe, are you there? I hear you, Joe. I hear you, but we don't see you, brother.
Can you see me now? Kind of.
Nope. It's okay. I
It's
see like
dark,
a really dark.
yeah.
I see you look like a ghost in the darkness, bro.
I'm in the
Come
car.
here.
That's why.
Come
I
into
understand.
the
That's
light.
okay. If you're in the car, don't wreck. That's fine. We
No,
hear you.
I pulled over. We're good.
Oh, okay. So what's the you said you had some creepy shit too, and I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So it actually started like 3-4 years ago.
Right.
I had just come out of like a real bad relationship and shit. I was out partying a lot.
Right.
And I started working at this new place that apparently someone had been murdered like years back, old Florida type shit.
Right.
So I noticed a lot of times when I was driving, if I was stopped at like a traffic light or something like that, I would get like this shadow image that would pass like my side view mirrors, or it would pass like the rear view behind me. And I would never get like a full on like view of it. One night when I was out, try to think of the best way for me to put this nicely. I was out at a local like sports bar, whatever. And I ended up hooking up with a waitress.
Okay.
And while we were in my car getting to know each other better, for lack of better words, this shadow passed straight across my windshield. When I got home that night, now mind you, I was perfectly sober. No alcohol, no weed, no nothing.
Okay.
When I got home that night, I was living in a 2-story townhouse. I was on the couch and I was watching TV. All the lights are off, just a glare from the television. And I watched this shadow straight up walk across my living room, like float across, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Go to my stairwell, stop at the first landing, and it literally turned around and then disappeared up the stairs. Every once in a while now, I'll get it at work. It'll show up like if I go to work after hours, because there's sometimes I keep animals and stuff in my office, shit I have in quarantine or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I'm there like after hours, I'll see the shadow, doors will open, and it only happens with me. Everybody thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah, sometimes it's all about
It's
about
not
you.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
maybe
it's not
something's
crazy.
with you.
The other thing is
Dakota.
I find dimes. Like
Interesting.
weird places. Like I'll get up and I'll find a dime like next to my
that's so
chair.
weird. There's one on the fucking floor right here in my studio.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's what happens.
And it's
to
a
me.
dime. I was like, why did I fucking drop a dime? That's weird that he said that. I'm not making that up. There's literally a dime here.
Yeah, man. It freaks me out sometimes.
Oh my God. It's funny you say that because we took there. So people talk about St. Augustine, Joseph, and they talk about the old jail, but we went to a place that they never knew was an old jail. They didn't know that. So the place now kind of looked like Dakota's house. It's very Victorian. It was old school. And then they wanted to remodel. So they ripped the walls back and there were bars in that motherfucker. Right.
Sure.
So they started pulling the floor up and there were all these scrapings from the 15th century, dude, were in the floor. And so they said, okay, well, you got to stop. You can't do this anymore. So there was this tunnel. It looked like where they stored people, but the room was 4 feet wide by maybe 6 foot tall, dude. 6'4", 6'5", maybe. Mm-hmm. And we're in this tight room, man. And we had Jimmy Riffle from the Gator Boys. We stuck him in the back there because Michael that was with us is a psychic, but he has been forever. It's what he does. He's like, oh, I need a gentle spirit. And he grabs Jimmy because Jimmy's like just really receptive and loving, and he's just a nice guy. So he got in there. He started feeling pressure like that. Then something threw a fucking dime or a nickel or some shit at him really hard, and then sat it on the table and it rolled down the room. Right. So there's this clip Brittany got, and I saw this little kid come in the room, and I said, there's a child. But before I said that, you can look at Jimmy's shirt, and it gets shaken. Like, it's still in there, and all of a sudden, someone tugs his shirt like a little kid would pull your shirt. And right after it did, I said, there's a child. And Michael said, oh, yeah, I see him. He's in the corner. It was badass. And when the face came through the wall, yes.
Yeah.
When the face came through the wall, bro, it looked at Jimmy's like right next to his face, and then looked down the hall at us, and not a single person in that room didn't see that.
Nope.
That's sick.
So, bro, you have to go back there. You got to go back there.
That's the kind of shit like I want to encounter. I've never had like like a face to face or like, you know what I'm saying, something that close.
It's amazing, bro. It makes you rethink your reality.
Well,
It really does.
I kind of want to see how I would react in a situation like that, because everybody's like, you know, oh, I wouldn't be afraid or fuck that shit. I want to see really how I would react to an encounter like that, because I mean,
what's interesting is, okay, so I purposely didn't say anything. I want to get to you, Dakota. Give me 2 minutes. I didn't say anything, and we went, first of all, Brittany and I went to the place first. I said, I don't want to know a fucking thing about it. Yeah. I didn't even know where this place was. Brittany has connections there. Nobody does tours there or anything like that. It's privately owned, but it's on the oldest street in St. Augustine. Okay.
I used to investigate that building for almost like several months, many years ago. So I wanted to take them there because not a lot of people know anything about it, and I did.
So Michael and I didn't know anything about it, and so they take us in there, and I look at Michael and I said, I don't know what to tell you, man, but there's nothing here. He goes, no, there's nothing here right now. Right. So the owner was kind of a douche nugget, and so he kept running around making stupid shit and screaming, hollering, turning all just and nothing is going to be. I would be pissed off if I was dead and someone's in my place fucking it all up. I would be really mad. So I'd probably just leave if I couldn't do anything. So he said, we need to do something. We need a spear. So he's like, you guys got to go out here, turn these lights off. I need some silence. Man, that night got even more twisted. I can't even tell you. Brittany has the video. I hope the whole entire thing, when she's done putting it together, we'll just go ahead and put it out. I just would like people to see it because it was awesome. So what happens, Joseph, when you get on the other side is, so I'm in there, I'm with Michael, and I said, okay, now I already know that I'm already on the other side of that, because the room starts to bend forward. So all my weight is now shifted to my toes. Now I didn't say anything. So he's like, oh, let's bring it. It's just me and him. He sticks me in by myself every room. He doesn't take anybody. He goes, Troy, I want you to go in there. He puts me in the shittiest fucking room and leaves me in there, right? So I'm like, okay, no, let's do it. Let's do it. So I go in every room and I'm like, okay, I'm over. And what I mean by that is he knows I was leaning forward, which means I'm in that other realm. Now, I love it, Joe. I love it. He pulled me out of there because he said, if I stay in there too long, it's bad for my body. So the very last room we were in, after all that went down, and I'll get into it with you because later I want to talk with Dakota too. When we got to the next room, I'm like, all right, Michael, the room's completely twisted. So I'm in this master bedroom. The entire walls are shifted to the left, but Michael is completely straight, and every other entity there, plus Jimmy, and everybody in the room. So so Michael looks across the room and he goes, yeah, you mean like Beetlejuice? And I go, exactly. So when Brittany and this other person got out into the room with us, the normal room, they're rocking back and forth. Both of them are shifting like this. They're just rocking, bro, like they're on a boat. So they were just in that realm, and then he pulled them out of it, because to me it just bends sideways, and I feel like I got magnetic shoes and I'm standing on a wall looking down. That's just how it feels. We talked to somebody from Paranormal Analytical. Eddie said the same thing.
Yep.
Said the same thing. Okay, Go ahead, Brittany. And then let's get to Dakota's story. I want to hear it.
Yeah, no, it was super cool because I just walked in next to Troy because Michael put me right next to him, and I immediately told him because it literally felt like I had sea legs. Immediately, like I got on a boat and we were totally swaying back and forth, and I said, I feel like I'm totally swaying back and forth, and it was just because the energy field in that room had already bended. It had already went into that dimension, and so walking through that door was like entering the portal. You have already shifted into that room, and that space was already open. So we were seeing people left and right because it was just open.
Dude, it was wicked. It was wicked, bro. It was wicked. Dakota, throw it up there. So for everybody who don't know, this is Dakota Gould Taxidermy. You should go check it out. So she does really, really good taxidermy work. She actually bought a freezer here for me, and I stuff it, and she comes out once or twice a year and empties it out. So
I love
which I have tried to call Will, by the way. I've called Will a few times. So sexy Will, if you see this, you're watching, call me. Call
Troy.
Yes, please call me. Go ahead, Dakota. Tell us the story.
Well, I wanted to say first too that Brittany keeps saying that like some people might have more abilities than others to see things. My dad, the guy who raised me, is 100% Native American, and I grew up on the settlement. So there was like always a bunch of weird stuff and crypto stuff and whatever. They have a bunch of weird legends. But my dad always told me when I experienced things that everybody actually has the same ability, but your mind only lets you see what it thinks you can handle.
I agree with that 100%. And I've heard a plethora of psychics say the same thing. Everybody has that ability. So, but we always think about what you just said, Dakota. You always doubt stuff, right? You always want to look for the logical doubt because we start to get hardwired away from wizardry and stuff. Because in the Bible, Moses was a goddamn wizard because he turned the staff to a snake, but everybody made some shit up about it. So I think all over time they cut that out. So I think her father's absolutely right. Absolutely. Anybody can do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what he always said. He said, if you can see something, it's because your mind's allowing you to see it and it's letting you see it for a reason. So don't be freaked out by it or whatever. Like, your mind is letting you see it for a reason. I don't know. That's just what his theory always was.
Well,
but I think
I'll tell you
that's
what.
true, though. I do think that's true. I think, and that's the thing, like, everybody closes themselves off because your natural mind kicks in. You just immediately want to science everything away, and you need to stop doing that. You know, like, we do not understand the plane around us. That happens so often, and I do agree with that. Like, some people just don't get it.
That's why Captain Kirk was so awesome, because he could see everything that Spock couldn't see because it wasn't logical. And, you know, I always flip that theory when I talk about crocodiles. Crocodiles being Spock, people being anthropomorphic, Captain Kirk. So remember, guys. Crocs are always going to think like Spock, so they will win. But back to the ghost thing, though, Dakota, I think that he's correct on that. I think everybody has that eye, and we always try to block it out. I think because we always default. Now, I think there was a lot of shit. I have this ability to turn it on and off, and a lot of people don't know that. And Brittany will tell you, I got away from it a long time ago because people just would think you're nuts. Katie's with her family right now. Her cousin came in, so they're over on the beach side at their parents' condo, and they're playing cards and talking right now, so they're going to catch the show later. But the other night, and I'll say it while I'm on here, we were in the master bedroom with the TV was off. We were sitting there with our phones and stuff. We were talking. She was typing something, looking at Instagram, whatever. And in my hallway, that from my master bathroom to my bed, this voice goes, "Hello?" And Katie's like, "Okay, did you just hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's that dude. He's trying to talk to us." But that's all he ever got out. I don't know if he couldn't get any more energy enough to get across, but that's all it was. You know, sometimes my bedroom door just opens, or it'll pull or make a sound, or you'll come up the staircase.
The door falls off and it had no screws for how long?
That dude.
Oh my God. Do you remember all that shit? Man,
I was on
bro,
the
Joe,
phone.
we just opened the cabinet, the same cabinet, and it fell off it just fell off.
Katie's
the screws were gone.
Saying, Brittany, you don't understand. There is no screws. How did this? I've been opening this up all day. I was like,
so yeah, Katie walks up next to me, and we're making, I'm doing the lemur bowls, right? We're looking for these things, and she grabs the cabinet door that we use every fucking day, right? And it just falls off in her hand. She's like, "What? No screws? I couldn't even find the screws." There's 6 screws. It happens a lot, dude. Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say I'll go up the steps sometimes, and Dakota's been here. I've got my hallway's like it's like it looks like the haunted. My house looks like the haunted mansion, so it's really dark, when you go up there. So you always feel like this thing behind you, and sometimes I'll stop and I'll be like, not tonight, and it'll stop. Or I'll be going upstairs, and both my doors, there's 3 bedrooms up there, so there's like 2 doors that are side by side, and then one to the side. They go boom, and they just kind of bang within the frame, all 3 of them at the same time. So I used to be like, that's just the air conditioning unit. Why you can't get that kind of suction, right? My dad accidentally cut one of our doors too low, so there's like a 3-inch gap under one of the doors. So ain't nothing gonna be slamming in there. TJ, what's up, bro? What's up, Troy and Britt? This is TJ. Remember TJ,
hey,
Brittany?
TJ, yeah,
don't act like
do.
you forgot him. You know who he is. Knock it off.
I know. I didn't say. I said, hey, TJ. I know he is.
But anyways, yes. What's up, TJ? We're talking about ghosts and crazy shit. Listen to me, TJ, and I have some stories too, my friend. We have some fun. Let me tell you something. But Dakota, talk about the house. You and Brittany seem to have a whole lot about this house.
Okay,
and I want, if we can touch the axe and all that, I want to touch it. I want to sniff it like this.
So it's the Villisca axe murder house. And I've stayed there 3 times. The first 2 times I was in high school. And I was in the gifted and talented program, but they called it the autonomous learner model. So we had to create our own curriculum, but then follow through with it. So me and 2 of my best friends decided that our entire curriculum was going to be ghost hunting. They got us equipment. They let us do a bunch of stuff, but we couldn't afford to go to the Villisca axe murder house because it's pretty pricey. And it just keeps getting more expensive. But I mean, we were teenagers and trying to do it on our own. So we literally did a fucking bake sale the morning after prom to get the money together to go stay in this house.
Nice.
That's awesome.
We did it 2 years in a row. And then I did it again a few years ago when I was still married to my ex-husband. A big group of us went, but no, it's absolutely crazy. And they had stuff too where and I don't know if you know, there were 6 people that died. 4 of them were children. And it's still been unsolved. They don't know for sure who did it. And it actually wasn't the sharp end of the axe. It was the blunt side of the axe that was used.
Also, it was blunt force trauma, like The Sopranos, Joe. Like The Sopranos.
Yeah. So there were there were like chips and grooves in the ceilings because that house is so old that the roofs are slanted. So it would have that slant over the bed. So, we didn't have enough swing up, but it was the pointy edge that was going up and hitting the ceiling.
Oh,
While
scary. I love this shit.
That's fucking crazy.
So the other weird things about it, and they have different theories, but the weirdest stuff that I had happened to me was in the attic, which they still don't think really anything happened in the attic, but there was a theory that they thought that the murderer had gotten in the house way earlier than the murders had happened and was hiding in the attic the entire time, and then waited for a train to come through to use that sound to muffle out each murder one by one, room by room, so that the people downstairs or in the next room weren't hearing it as it was happening.
Yep.
So with the first time we went, there was a bunch of teenagers because the whole class wanted to go. It wasn't a great environment to try to do a bunch of stuff, and we actually ended up getting really annoyed by it because it was just a bunch of people trying to do like Ouija boards and stupid shit and screaming every time a weird noise happened, and it was nonsense. But the second time we went, we kept it a small group, and literally every time we had something happen, it was in the attic. So again, I don't know for sure, but I feel like that whole theory of the killer hanging out in there and hiding in there, I don't know. We went every time it was summer. The house it was sold after, but then they went back and restored it to its original state. So eventually it got electricity and stuff, but when they decided to turn it into a destination, they put it back to its original state of no water, no electricity. There's some oil lamps. That's pretty much it. We went in summer, so obviously there was no air conditioning. The house was hot as fuck. That attic was hot as fuck. And I have pictures somewhere. I'll have to go back and find them.
That's awesome. You said them. We'll post them.
All of a sudden, like, the temperature in the attic just dropped, and we were like cold. Like, it was a noticeable difference. And we started taking pictures, and I literally probably have 5 or 6 pictures where there's just like a big wispy figure in the attic. And then after like 5 minutes, it was hot and we were sweaty again. But there was like a solid 5-minute period of time where we were freezing, we were shivering. There was like this weird, it was weird.
Hot and sweaty. I like that.
It was so weird. It was just, I don't know. My mom went with us a couple of the times too, and she also is obsessed. And she was down in the kitchen,
I'm excited.
And there was like this little pantry down in the kitchen. But the house is so old that the floors have sunk in certain areas too. So obviously the rooms on the edges of the houses kind of sink downwards. And they had a basket of like random old kids' toys and stuff in this pantry. So obviously it was on the edge slope of the house sloping down. But there were balls rolling up and out of that pantry and into the kitchen while we were sitting there.
TJ says, bro, I remember the crazy shit that would happen in that Ruskin house when I rented on the water. Yes, I do remember that. There was stuff that we couldn't explain. That's what I'm saying. We actually have like a few shows for stories. I was going to tell you something too, Dakota. I was thinking about why you were talking. Now, I have a question about that for you or Brittany. Did the killer die in that house?
No, there was more weird things about that too. They never know who he was. It's still unsolved to this day. But like when they went into the house afterwards, all of the windows had been covered with blankets, towels, whatever. So he was trying to make sure that the bodies weren't found for a long time, but he obviously didn't know. 2 of the children that died were not children that belonged to that house. They were neighbor children that were there staying with the other kids for the night.
Yep.
So that's why people started going over, because the kids never came home. There were blankets and towels and like random fabrics that he had covered all the windows with. And then there was just a random slab of bacon out on the counter. It was like a bacon fat chunk. And the only theory with that is they think that he covered himself with it to try to, if there were dogs that were going to end up sniffing him out, they would smell the bacon and not him. And it would throw things off.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Or they were all getting ready to cook a big dinner and they got fucked up. I mean,
well, they were all sleeping when we killed him.
What I was going to say was he didn't die in that house, Brittany, so I don't think he's there. But the person that's probably still lingering, or the stuff that she's talking about in the attic, I mean, you have to think about whatever room he was killed on. So he'd be attached to the axe or that room. And so obviously if he floated up, he might be sitting up in there There's so many theories on stuff like a fearful death like that. When you leave the body, sometimes you're in the same mortal fear you're in. You may have tried to climb into the attic thinking you escaped, and then sometimes you didn't realize you were dead right
Here's
away.
the problem is one of the girls, like Dakota was talking about, is one of those girls was witnessing this happening, and she ran down. He grabbed her supposedly in the way she was murdered right by the front door and literally dragged her there and murdered her there by the front door, one of the younger girls who was about 7 or 8 years old.
Mhm.
So, and all the doors were locked. That's
And
why
nobody
they
knows about-
believed he had to have been there prior. Because
nobody
these kids
knows.
were the neighbor, and they were like, they never came back, and they came to the door. Nobody could get in the house because all the doors were locked. So they're like, what's going on? We were literally at church hours ago. Like, what is happening? What, the house is quiet. And they
Mhm.
literally went in from one room and followed trails of bodies and finding everybody just
I wonder
murdered.
why he did that. You think it was like was there any? She said it was unsolved. Both of you say it's unsolved.
Completely. It's still completely
So,
unsolved.
Dakota, tell them about Grant's story. So you, Dakota, did you post that or did
My
somebody?
kids are watching this on my tablet upstairs, so it's
Okay,
Grant.
so
telling me to tell you Grant's story.
Grant, tell. So Grant wants to tell them about Grant's story. So tell Grant's story for us, Dakota.
So Grant, my oldest son, we lived in this house in this tiny town.
Hello, Grant.
He was probably like 2 or 3, and before we came on, he was going on and on about how cool he thinks you are. Anyways.
Well, thanks, Grant.
He was probably, he was 2.5, maybe 3. So keep in mind, he couldn't read. He was like in preschool and like starting to learn letters, but he couldn't read, didn't really know phonetically what letters did what sounds, anything. But we moved in this house, and my kid is like, he says he has this friend named Johnston. And Johnston,
I remember this.
Johnston's keeping him up in the middle of the night, and he can't go to sleep because Johnston wants to play with him. And I would send him to bed, and then at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up to hearing him, and I would go to his room, and the lights were on, and he was on his floor playing with toys, and he would say, "Oh, Johnston woke me up and wanted to play." Just all of this stuff over and over again. And I had never gotten like weird vibes in the house, so I wasn't sure if it was like actually potentially a spirit or maybe an imaginary friend or like what is actually going on. But like things kept getting weirder and weirder, and Johnston seemed to be around all the time and was telling him to do stuff and making him do things, and he was just constantly having these weird conversations. And I've always been obsessed with cemeteries. Like if I see an old cemetery, I always stop. I like looking at all the symbolism on stones. Like I can
absolutely.
Organization like from like
the Woodman
I love
and shit. That's awesome.
Yep. So I do it all the time. I used to do like old photography with stones, whatever. So
that's awesome.
I was driving around, and we had been pretty new to that town and that area, so I didn't know it super well. And I had just had my second son, and he was a newborn. And so we were driving around in the car one day trying to get him to go to sleep, the baby. Mm-hmm. He eventually falls asleep. I'm on some back gravel road outside of town that I had never been on before, didn't know where I was. And I see this little cemetery. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like the baby's asleep. I've never seen this before. So Grant and I stop. We get out of the car because I want to go look at some stones. I turn around and Grant's not following me anymore. And I look and he's standing at this headstone. And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, it's Johnston. And I go, what? And I walked all the way back over, looked down at the stone he was looking at. And sure enough, it said Johnston right across the stone. After that day, he never saw Johnston again. They never had a conversation again. They never were up in the middle of the night playing again. It was like the second he found that stone and found Johnston, never saw him again.
Wow. That's crazy. That could have been just I need to find for some type of closure, perhaps. And he was open enough to do it. I mean, kids are so open.
That's really awesome. Yeah, especially if you're, as young as he was. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he can't read. Awesome. So for him to like just find that stone and be like, oh, that's him. And like, I know that's him. And then to see that the letters matched up with it was just like a holy shit moment.
Yeah, and that to me is intriguing. And
but that seems like you were guided there though, Dakota. You know what I mean? Like you were literally led there with him that day to see that.
Yeah.
I wondered if that was part of it because we literally had nothing going on that day. We didn't even really have a reason to be in the car. We were just kind of like hanging out and just driving where we felt like driving and seeing if the baby would fall asleep, and that's what happened.
I think that's
the stairs.
I think that's pretty cool. Those are neat
That's
stories
really
to have,
cool.
and I think that's very interesting. And sometimes there are things that's closure. Joseph and I were talking earlier about really dark shit. I like finding that. So there's a lot of really interesting things with that I like. I like it to where it almost creeps me out, kind of thing. I like
That's what people were trying to tell me when I first started talking about these shadows. Someone
Right.
was telling me it was like a succubus. Someone's telling me that it's like some kind of spirit asking me to give it a job to do. All kinds.
That's
of
very
shit.
possible, or a guide trying to reach you. A lot of times they'll say, like,
Yeah.
I heard one of Brittany's friends say that sometimes those shadow figures are traumas. So if you had a bad trauma or you witnessed something, it
Well,
kind of sticks
that's
with
what I
you in
was
the
trying
form
to figure out.
of an
'cause, I
apparition.
mean,
Right.
I've done a lot
Right.
of crazy shit in my life, but I can't think of anything that's like that stands out as far as like traumatic.
Right. Right.
But like even to this day, like I get weird shit that goes on, even like in the house I'm in now. I was actually dating a girl last year that worked down in Ybor at the
Wow.
Scar place.
Right.
So
Right.
I had gone in while she was closing up because it's fucking Ybor, so I'm gonna make sure she gets out.
Yeah, I know. Tibor, correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
Safety.
Yeah, I do.
I'm in there. It's just me and her, and I'm talking to her at the bar that's all the way over to the left, and fucking two glasses go flying off the back. Like they have like a mirrored, glass with the shelves on it. Two glasses just go flying like off the shelf on the opposite side of the bar where I was standing, and broke. But I've heard stories about that place, having like some kind of spiritual history or whatever.
Yeah.
Another time, I go into the bathroom there, go take a piss, and the lights go off. I figure it's a motion thing, right? So I'm like, all right. I turn around, and the garbage pail slid in front of the door as the lights went off. Now, I'm like, this shit is cool to me. So I go out. I'm telling everybody, like, dude, this shit just happened. The lights went
They're
off.
like, you smoked in the bathroom.
Yeah. And like everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, to me, this shit is cool. I just wish I could get some kind of like show up in my face type shit. Cause
Well, so it's funny you said it because back in the mid '90s, I worked for the Beecham Theater, which was Zuma Beach, and then it was Taboo nightclub. If you're familiar with Taboo, I would imagine you probably know about that, Joe, over there in Orlando. It's the old Beecham Theater, and it was during Prohibition times and everything. A couple of bathrooms upstairs, they would put the trash cans in there overnight, and then they would come in, and all the trash cans would be thrown out over the side with the bags ripped out of them, like a lot more than it should have happened. But it would just be the owners; they're the only ones with the keys to the building, right?
mm-hmm.
So we would climb up these ladders. A lot of shit was covered with curtains, and we would climb up all these ladders and shit. And we found an old room up there, dude. That we like looked through this piece of wood, we stuck the flashlight in there, and we saw like a chair with some dust. Bro, it was like a dressing room from the 1940s. And when the building was done, it was just done. They never touched it. They just nailed some wood over and covered the shit. There was a fire door from like 1927 that was installed. And then there was this big boiler underneath there, and you could go see the boiler. But the room always intrigued me because the bed, the pillows, it was like just disgusting dust and rat shit and all kinds of shit all over it. But it was just sitting there. And there were these old pair of women's leather shoes up there that were probably ankle high. I'll never forget it. And the owner's like, yeah, we'll leave it alone. We believe that was Mrs. Beecham's room. So they would see her in there all the time.
That's
And
awesome.
so these two guys are great. They're both Italians, dude. And they were like, just really like family oriented and like loud as fuck and rough. You know how it is. And George and John, they were like the best friends. They grew up, George Maltezos and John Sanfilippo. And they bought houses together. And so the one guy's like, guys, so we sold the house. John's like, we sold the house. And this woman keeps walking around in the house, and they're calling me saying there's a ghost. They want their money back. That's how serious it got. True story. Wow. Now, he's not into that shit at all.
Yeah.
So they found out that it was long story short, they found out that his wife was buried at another cemetery because that's where the kids put her, but she wanted to be next to him. So it went on and on. They figured it out, and John said, I will pay to exhume that body and move it next to that plot and see what happens. And they did. They went ahead, and the family allowed that. That was the last resort thing, and true story. And they did, and it stopped. So
wow,
that's where I was like, whoa, So, there was just so much going on. It was all these different connections there. But they say the Beecham Theater is pretty haunted down there. Like, you can crawl under the street to the hotel where they used to sneak the liquor stuff back and forth and the speakeasies. Yeah. It's all there, man. So if they let you go in and out, you can go in there and look through that shit. It's awesome to me. It's really awesome.
That would definitely be cool.
It is. They do. I mean, there's so much of that here. Out in Lake County, one of Capone's houses is out there in Lake County. I think it's off Britt Road.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah,
not on
dude,
Britt
it's
Road.
awesome. It has like trap doors in it. Is it Britt Road or is it It is,
No,
right?
it's-
Or no?
No, it's on. Oh, it's not
pretty
far
cool,
from
Joe.
here, actually. We pass it all the time on one of the back roads.
Yeah,
It's like,
so
oh,
the
there's
owners,
Al
you know,
Capone's house.
years and years ago, like in early 2000s when they purchased it, they found doors in that house and trap doors, stuff under the floor for like storage things, and you could like touch the pantry and it rotated into another room and it connected. It's still like that. They left it that way, but you know, he did all that so he could escape and he could just slide through. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool that he built it in the middle of Lake County, Florida. You know what I mean? Of all the places, you know. So I bet there's some neat shit going on out there, like by the Dead River and all that kind of stuff. What used to happen on that bridge and everything there over the Dead River in Lake County. So I'm sure there's a lot of shit there, dude, that I'd like to start looking into.
Lake County has a lot of really tiny little hidden gems that a lot of people don't know about that have some really, you know, sick, dark history to them. Like Lake County.
I know it's an old, you know, it's an old area.
Mhm.
Like Ocala. I mean, I told you we found that skull in that. Jimmy found a skull.
Yeah.
Sent me a picture, and then I went back and looked, and those above ground casket tombs were caved in, and you could look in there and see the body parts laying up in there and shit. I thought that was fucking amazing. I love that shit. But you can actually see that. Jimmy will tell you where that's at. You can go look. But yeah, so Lake County is just like a really weird, twisted kind of place. But so what we were talking about earlier when you guys tuned in or before you came in, Dakota, we're going to start linking up with Flavio and do Y&I tours, and we're going to start getting access with Brittany, and then we'll come out to you, and you can make a connection. So for those of you that came on afterwards, Dakota was telling us that she has access to maybe get the axe, or we can go in and see all that stuff. So I think that we're going to put these tours together. We're going to they have to go through Flavio, and then he organizes them so that everybody's got equipment, everybody's got location stuff, and then we're off, and then we go do these things. And, you know, it can last anywhere from when we leave till 5, 6 in the morning, depending on the activity we're getting and exactly what we need to accomplish. So I think it'll be a really, really cool thing.
I can't publicly or officially promise the axe, but
That's okay.
I can
That's
tell
okay.
you I can probably get people in
That's
to
okay.
where
That's
it's
perfect.
at.
Yeah, just so we can see that stuff. Absolutely. But we're
Yeah,
gonna start doing those type
Ballista
of
had its
tours.
own little museum, and they had the axe and everything on display, but that town is so small, and they just couldn't keep the museum going. So I used to work for and still help out a museum that's holding the axe for the
Wow.
Ballista Museum until they can take it back, even though we know they're never gonna be able to take it back, but it's not officially ours to show.
Yeah.
but
I understand.
we do have it, and I know where it's at. So
I think that's really cool. So, but see, that's the cool stuff. That's just not, you know, I think you get more quality things, and you don't have the idiots. You know what I mean? Like when you do stupid tours, and you got all these dumbasses, dude, and they make a joke out of it, or they're poking their girlfriend, and it ruins everything. I really like to be in tune when I do that. And I really like to get into what we're doing because I want that needs to happen. And I you know, there's ways and there's exercises to get in that room.
I don't know, Britt, if you've heard it at all, but we also have that really famous haunted, the Farrar School, that big building that's abandoned and empty that they do investigations on all the time too.
Yes. Yep. And I know that's like, it's one of those like, hey, can we get in kind of thing, but you have to know somebody to help you get into it because
I
know
that somebody's, I think.
You and I need to talk, my friend.
Yeah.
Because that's one of those places that a lot of us have wanted to go. I mean, like, you know, there's so many places like that where, you know, you have to know somebody that'll help you get in.
My husband and I used to have like a ghost hunting crew and like our own radio show there for a while. And he's still friends with people that investigate it, and he's gotten to go into it a few times, and we're still really good friends. So I'm like 99% sure I could make it happen.
That's really awesome. I think that'd be a lot of fun for sure.
It's all those little hidden gems that are the best. You know what I mean? Like I don't like going to the ones like even working in film and television, you immediately go, well, we have to go here because it's the lighthouse and then I'm
Yep.
always the person that's like, I want to go off on the off-beaten track. So at night you go and you talk to the locals, and then that is
Yep.
where the truth comes out. They're like, oh, that's so over televised. No, you need to go here because it has this, and this wrong with it. And you're
Right,
like,
Or
we're
right.
going
even
tomorrow.
when you go to places, even if they are well known, it's still nice to talk to the locals about stuff, because even Valeska, like, it's very well known and I was excited to go. But if I hadn't have like went to that rinky dink gas station and talked to people, there's no way I would have known that like the town kids like to come around and tap on the windows and scare people when they know they're staying there.
Oh,
So
right,
then
right,
it was
right.
like I automatically know, like, if I hear window taps, I'm just gonna completely disregard it. Like, I'm not gonna do shit about it. Like,
Did you hear about the guy that stabbed himself? Did you read that?
no.
Yeah, you need to read that.
Yeah, so you see that? Listen, I don't want to see shit like that, Joe. I ain't going in to stab myself, but I do like.
No, but he-
I
but
do
he-
like the. I do.
He forcibly, I mean, came out the next morning and basically, and it's a whole article about it, basically antagonized. And it was basically telling him to do it to himself, and basically took over him and did it. And he did do it.
Well,
To himself.
then you can't let yourself
So-
get taken like that. You got to be real careful.
You
with that
got it.
kind of
I'll
stuff.
That's
Dakota.
what
I'll
I
send it
thought.
to you.
Yes,
I'll send you the
please.
link.
Yeah.
Because when I read about it,
definitely.
I was like, this is the kind of stuff you don't want,
Right.
getting the
Well,
bad
and
rap out. But it
Valeska,
happened, and it is what it is.
their setup's really cool too, because even though the house itself doesn't have water or electricity, they did build a big barn behind the house that
Right.
does have a bathroom and electricity, and they have some old films like from back then, like you can go in there and watch movies and like hang out if you need a break or like need a minute. But we
Yeah.
went up even into the attic of that barn, and they had like some old caskets up there and stuff laying around that I had no idea why they were there, where they came from. But the cemetery is also in
Yeah.
walking distance from the house, and I found all their headstones. Like, I found everything's there. Everything.
That's pretty
That's
awesome.
awesome.
That's pretty awesome. So
I would
you know,
be fun to go into the attic and do baby powder, Dakota. Make a
oh, well,
nice
you have
little
to do that
square.
with some baby powder. That would be nice.
That
And
is
lay
a
it
really
down.
good idea.
Yeah, and
I
then
like
you
that.
just sit around and you wait and you communicate and see what. Put a nice little REM pod by the pad and just let it
Yep.
unfold. They do
Yeah,
that in
I
the
did.
original Conjuring house, and they do a really good job. Like it,
I
it
bet that's
happens
pretty
quite
cool.
a bit up there. Yeah. Well, that
So we used to
that
do-
farmhouse is-
One of the reasons we'll take those over was we used to I say we used to because it was pre-COVID, the Croc Star tours, and one of our tours went to Arizona, and so we got to go to Tombstone and go through the old
awesome.
towns, and there were like old ghost towns out there that are abandoned. Those are the types of things we really ought to consider as well too, because or like Iowa, I think that would be a neat place to go. Idaho, Minneapolis, those types of places that there's a lot.
If we can
lot of
also
stuff.
have some fun because it is paranormal, and we can go to Roswell, New Mexico, and we can actually do a real night watch at the actual Roswell area, which is really great. Because of
So
my
we can
next
watch
door
our
out there.
government fly shit around out there. That'd be awesome.
No, don't
Sneaking
make
around.
fun. It's true.
They all think it's aliens, man. Let's fly the new. And they got these fucking monster drones they're flying around out there.
It's also
Yeah.
funny too, like how some things get labeled as being paranormal or like UFO activity, even though there's not like a whole lot, or because of a movie. Like when I went to Devil's Tower, it's like all freaking alien stuff, but it was all just because of the movie,
Yep.
whatever
Close
that
Encounters
was.
of the Third Kind,
Yep,
which was an
that's-
amazing movie, by the way, folks.
Mhm.
And so like everything is all really kitschy alien UFO stuff everywhere, but there's like not actually a lot of legitimate anything that's happened out there. And then it's made it really hard for the Native Americans that like actually use it as a monument for prayer and like
That's true too.
Yeah.
They said it was a giant tree too.
Yep.
Yep.
They said it was like an old ass giant tree because in Arizona you can go to the Petrified Forest. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but the Petrified Forest in Arizona is all like there's like petrified frogs that are turned to stone. There's tortoise out there. There's trees, and they all look like stones. Go
And
ahead.
something else too, like what Dakota was saying too, and like I said earlier when we first started, was about sacred ground. And a lot of people don't realize that the Native Americans had a lot of sacred ground, and it's
Yep.
not known nowadays. And they build on top of it. And when shit starts going wrong, you have got to bring in someone from the native tribe to help you with that, because that is their ground. And you have basically just
That's
like
true.
just said, well, oh well, and built on top of it. And they're sacred. Like there's properties out there that, have been long since forgotten. And so you do have to reach out to the local tribes for help with that. And it's really important that you do.
So that's a good idea. We're actually on the last minute, Brittany, now. So I'm on my last. We've got 30 seconds, so I'm gonna try to tell everybody thanks for coming out and talking to us tonight. Thanks to Joseph and thanks to Dakota for coming on. You got to check them out, the Croc Father. Look him up on Instagram. He's got some really cool shit. And Dakota Gold, taxidermy. If you look up her stuff too, we can put links up for that. And WTF Paranormal Officials, Brittany's other link. And so if you guys want to check that stuff out, and we're going to start putting some stuff up, and we want to get those tours going again. So I did talk with Flavio, and we're getting that all put together. And so once you get a connection, Brittany, then we'll figure out where we're going to go. We'll plan them, and we'll get big groups of people, and we'll be able to do those tours through that company. And then Flavio can use that company, and we'll have all the equipment we need and the vans. So the structure's fun, so everybody can get together and have a really good time doing it. So it is 9:00 on the dot. I appreciate everybody coming out and talking to us. Thanks for listening to all of our crazy stories, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week. We may be moving the Croc Show to Thursday nights instead of Sundays, just to make it easier on everybody else. So we're debating on that too. We're going to look into that as well. So thanks again for coming, and we appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for coming. And you too, thanks for coming on. I will